My name is Gary Leroy. I'm not a politician or any type of civic leader. If I had to categorize myself, I would probably call myself an educator. I teach at both the undergraduate and the graduate level. I also teach taxation and tax representation. And I don't paint myself as a Thomas Paine who wrote Common Sense, but I do believe that I bring some common sense to the discussion of what's going on in our nation today. Within our Congress, I see a detached elitism that is threatening the very fiber of our country. My opinions are based on my business education, my business experience, and to a large measure on my faith. I have watched the Washington elite ignore every principle I teach in my classes. Leadership from both political parties is now plotting how to make the other side lose in the battle over the congressional activities that are going on in light of our new president. As they continue to try to win, our nation continues to lose. Many of these senators and representatives saw their election to Congress as an income enhancement and as a career move. Unlike the citizen legislators who founded our nation, most in Congress today have abandoned any thought of moving back into the private sector. Their goal is to get re-elected in the next election. They would never consider term limits because that would be an end to their newfound career. Their central focus remains to be re-election rather than public service. In management class, we discuss Pareto's principle, which is most commonly known as the 80-20 rule. In terms of our national leadership, you can view this principle in multiple ways. One application of the principle is that 20% of Congress does 80% of the work, and the balance just participate in groupthink and go along with their party's agenda. These so-called leaders then whip the rank and file into groupthink to further their political agenda. There is another application of this principle that says 20% of the Congress will never agree with our newly elected president. There is another application to this principle that would state that 20% of the elected officials will never agree with the president-elect on anything. The number of these disagreeables is fairly well distributed between the Republicans and the Democrats. You hear the liberal left declaring their opposition to President-elect Trump because they believe that Hillary should be the president based on a 3 million margin, roughly the margin in California. This is as ridiculous as believing that the Houston Texans defeated the Tennessee Titans in the final game of the season because they got more first downs and they had more combined yardage than the Titans did. This philosophy would disregard the final score, which clearly showed the Titans won. The rules of the game are totally irrelevant to this group of people. Elections, like football games, have rules that determine the winners and the losers. Deal with it. Meanwhile, you have the whiners on the extreme right complaining that Trump is not qualified to be president. Well, according to the Constitution, he meets the requirements of being the President of the United States because in Article 2, Section 1, the Constitution clearly states that the requirements for being President of the United States is to be a natural-born citizen and to have lived 14 years in the United States. That's it. That's the qualification. President-elect Trump clearly meets those qualifications. There is no requirement that a person conform to any political model. Deal with it. President Trump has built a team of competent advisors. They come from the field of business. They have demonstrated abilities in the areas of building and leadership, and most of them come apart from the political framework of Washington, D.C. As a master deal maker, he has the ability to draw 70 to 80% of the congressmen, regardless of political affiliation, to come together to make substantive changes in the way we do business as a country. This makes the disagreeables insignificant and strips them of their power and influence. It is time that the members of Congress return to their role as representatives of their states and districts and resign from the political class. more is at stake than their careers. It is far more important that they do what is right rather than what is politically expedient.